Brian, good morning. Hope you're doing well. Hope you had a good weekend. The story comes out yesterday that Herm Edwards, you've been doing some work for him out there at Arizona State, is let go by the Sun Devils after a loss over the weekend to go to 1-2 on the year. Were you surprised? Were you shocked? What's been the reaction?
No, nothing in this business surprises me anymore. Herm knew coming in, obviously, with all the things were going on at Arizona State, that there was, this was going to be pending. Obviously, a huge disappointing loss to Eastern Michigan. I think it just prompted Ray Anderson, the athletic director, to say, "Look, what it does do is it allows them to move forward now in looking for their next head coach. If you write it out during the season, we see this all the time in the NFL, that you do one of two things, particularly if you know you're going to make a change. You kind of surreptitiously behind the scenes go about laying the groundwork and reaching out to those who you're interested in, which is not fair to the guy that's in the job. Or if you do it this way, then it's all above board. It makes it very simple. So from that standpoint, it's a good thing. The challenge now is they've kind of got to hold it together at Arizona State. They're now coming into the Pac-12 play. They have a capable team. They have a team capable of winning, but it's very fine margins, and they got to tap into that. And those kids have to rally around and now see if they can acquit themselves a whole lot better with a tough schedule coming up with Utah, USC, and Washington.
You were in the college game for a long time before you went into the pro game, and now you're dipping your toe back in the water a little bit in the college game. And you've touched on it from time to time about the whole transfer portal thing. And we're going to talk with Barry Alvarez in length about that this coming Wednesday. But, that part of it aside, your thoughts on good, bad, or indifferent. But I know that Arizona State, you lose some players, you gain some players. How hard is it when you're bringing in so many new guys? And Arizona State's not alone in facing this challenge of trying to mold a group together when you have so many quote-unquote new guys.
It is hard. And if you watch over the weekend, you watch college games, and you listen to broadcasts, it seems like every play, well, so-and-so just went for 40 yards. He's a transfer from such and such. And, oh, yeah, this transfer, let's begin with both the NIL and the portal. There are some positive aspects to it in terms of some of these huge amounts of money going to the players, and the fact that the players have some latitude to be able to move from one situation to another. They've got to get it under control, though. Right now, it is the wild, wild west. There are really no rules or regulations to it. I don't think it's good for football, and I don't think it would take a lot to get it a little bit more under control. We're clearly moving towards these super divisions, and that's fine. There are teams that are willing and capable of paying at a higher level compared to others, and that will find its level here as we go forward. But there's got to be some structure to it. I was very appreciative of Mike Krzyzewski after the Final Four appearance, and he's gone as kind of his farewell news conference, very insightfully, as a Mike Krzyzewski would do, said, "Guys, we got to get this under control because this is not good. This is a mess. It's not good for college, basketball, football, whatever. It's not good for the players ultimately, and I'm talking about across the board. So some entity needs to step in. The NCAA seems to be feckless in this. Someone needs to step in, somebody, and say, okay, we're going to maintain the best elements of it to make sure that the students and the players are well represented, but we've got to put some kind of structure into it."
All right, let's shift gears now to the pro game. You made the comment before the first game of the year that the teams that lost, there'd be a semi-panic mode. If you go to 0-2, there'd be a major panic mode. And there is a major panic mode right here in the home of the defending AFC champion Cincinnati Bengals. Brian, this whole – I know you don't get to watch every single minute of every single game, but you pay attention to what's happening. The Bengals went out and spent tens of millions of dollars to fix an offensive line that allowed over 70 sacks last year. Through 2 games this year, Joe Burrow has been sacked 13 times. How do you fix it?
Yeah, it's not easy. It begins with the personnel, and like you said, they thought they had addressed it, obviously, in free agency and the like. Um, you clearly have to go back and now, from a system standpoint, look at your protection schemes and when you're using them. Because obviously, and there's always a lot of debate, quarterbacks will tell you they want as many out as possible. 5-man protection is fine, and I'll handle the hots. You can go the other way and make 7 and 8-man protections and pretend that the quarterback's protected, but then he holds on to the ball too long, and then somebody gets beat. So, clearly they've got to go back and beyond just the players, or even with the players, saying, okay, here's who we have, and here's the kind of protection. I remember it was infuriating as a play caller. But when you're in Baltimore, my offensive line coach said, we cannot, I won't embarrass the player's name, we can't leave this right tackle without help, ever. Our protections have to go that way, the chip, the tight end, and that's very limiting for a play call. And it's like every time can I just one time go the other way and let him try to battle out? And the line coach goes, sure you can. You're going to get sacked, but you can do it. So yeah, it right now for the Bengals, they've got to get Joe Burrow comfortable. And to me, it would be via the protection schemes as to how you're employing them, how you change them up, what you're trying to do. Because you're right. Right now, how can he not, every time he drops back, look at the line going, am I okay? Which one of you guys is getting beat, and where am I going to get a rush?
Does a quarterback get gun shy? Have you been through that experience where, it's almost at the point through the first 2 games of this year that every time they're in shotgun and Burrow catches the ball on the snap from center, that there is somebody on him almost immediately. Do quarterbacks, great quarterbacks, not middle-of-the-road guys, but do great quarterbacks sooner or later get gun shy?
I don't know that I'd use the term gun shy. They become very mindful. And how do you not have this kind of issue, and where's it's coming from? And that's not a good place to be. And so that goes back to, again, whether you're under center, whether you're in gun, whether you're turning protection, whether it's a man protection, whether it's a zone protection, a 5, 6, 7, 8-man protection, changing it up so people don't have a chance to get a beat on you. It's got to be addressed. You just can't say, well, we'll just get better, or we'll just have him get the ball out of his hand quicker. Well, that doesn't always work either, because sometimes you may be rushing a read and you're leaving big plays down the field. So it's not an easy. There's not an easy answer, an easy fix, but there's things that you've got to do to approach it, because you've got to get your quarterback less mindful of that rush.
Mindful, that's a good word. Very good word, mindful. I'm going to store that away. That's a Billick word there. No doubt. You learned that at Stanford, I think, when you were there.
That's right.
The Baltimore collapse yesterday. I still can't believe it, and I watched it. 28 points they give up after giving up 14 in the first 3 quarters. Brian, how does that happen? I'm not being facetious when I ask that question. I'm serious. How does that happen?
Yeah, and particularly with a team like the Baltimore Raiders, because it's, their tradition of defense. They've got a new defensive coordinator, so obviously they felt like they needed to make some changes from last year, and that tradition carrying on. What is surprising to me as well is, the first half, the Ravens were, Lamar Jackson, that group, they were on a roll. They looked really good. And in the second half, so you have to give credit to Miami and what they were able to do. And they have some talent. I do some things with the Ravens each week in film analysis, and going in now, Miami's got some talent to hurt you down the field with Hill and Waddle and the second. So they have some talent, and Tagovailoa is obviously kind of getting into a little bit of rhythm. Lamar Jackson was spectacular. He ran for over 100 yards, which is typical. He was 21 of 29 for over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. They didn't sack him. But in the second half, what happened, obviously, Miami chewed up the clock, which is uncharacteristic of a Baltimore game. And that defense just didn't seem to have an answer. So right now, defensively, what I see is they don't have that dominant pass rusher, so they've got to manufacture it. And the secondary, although their top guys, Humphrey is pretty good, but you got to be deep in your secondary. And when you have three good, options, as did Miami in Hill, Waddle, and Gesicki, then yeah, you're going to stretch it. So yeah, that one of all the weekend was probably the most surprising. I did not see the whole game. In fact, I'll be honest with you, after I saw the first half score, I said, well, this is done.
Yep.
And was shocked when I saw the comeback and then the overtime win, or the last minute win.
Yeah, we talked about it, and of course you say from the beginning, our thoughts and prayers are with Trey Lance, young man injured, very serious ankle injury yesterday. But we were talking about this situation before anything like that ever happened, about the whole going with the number one pick over Garoppolo, who's won a ton of games. Brian, I don't know how much you saw as far as just maybe highlights or replays or whatever it might be. I got the sense watching that game and the way it played out when Garoppolo came in and they win the game and he played quite well. I mean, not overwhelming numbers or stats, but that's not his thing. It's finding a way to win games. I just got the feeling that there was a shot of energy into that team and into that offense with him back as a quarterback. You agree with that? Is that fair?
Yeah, and maybe a sigh of relief of, okay, now we're, because they like Trey Lance, and yeah, he's going to be good, and they're all in, but they're a pretty good football team. And this, you're exactly right. They ended up then coming back to a very prototypical 49ers footprint where they ran for almost 200 yards. Garoppolo was serviceable, not outstanding, like you said, but he didn't make any big errors. And they played good, solid defense. They dominated. They had the ball for almost 38 minutes. And so that's 49er football. That's the way they want to win. Garoppolo knows how to do that. And for the most part, avoid mistakes, which is key when you're going to win that way. Believe me, I know this formula. The key is you can't turn the ball over. And they ran the ball 45 times. They'll take that footprint every single time, and Garoppolo knows how to work that game plan.
Anything from the weekend jump out to you that I've not asked you about that you say to yourself, boy, that was an interesting situation there?
Well, actually we said every week there's obviously Green Bay coming back, Chicago after a good opening win against that 49ers team we're just talking about. And Green Bay came back as usual at home against Chicago, owned them.
Yep.
Dallas playing as well as they did with now their backup quarterback. That's notable against, again, the reigning AFC champion Cincinnati Bengals was pretty darn good. And so, those games were as you know, I always put a heavy emphasis or read a lot into the ability to win on the road. So for Miami to win on the road in Baltimore, I think was substantial. I think the Jets being able to get a win on the road, and we'll see how good the Jets are going to be ultimately, but to get on the road and have a big win, maybe a season-saving win. That seems silly to say with just 2 games in the books. But that was substantial. And the New York Giants, I think, appeared to be, even though that was a home win, seemed to be, the difference of having Saquon Barkley back, what that does for Daniel Jones. And you talk about having a formula, particularly in that division, that could be solid for them. So yeah, there were, as always, there's a lot of notable wins.
I just want to follow up on one thing and get your thoughts. From the home crowd standpoint, it was really ugly in Denver with Russell Wilson. There's a lot of booing going on. Clearly, they find a way to come back and win the game. So, you're able to sort of smooth over some of the rough edges and all that kind of thing. When a player leaves one place and goes somewhere else, you would think there's a little bit of a honeymoon there. But in Denver, they've been so down for so long, I think most people felt like with the skill position players, Wilson coming on board, the defense, that this was going to be a quote-unquote more impressive-looking offense, and they have not been an impressive-looking offense in any form or fashion.
Yeah, when you go out and buy a player, that comes part and parcel with it as well. I mean, the expectations, your loyalties will ebb and flow. I'm always reminded of the Seinfeld routine where he doesn't follow much pro sports. He says, because you're just cheering laundry, right? It's just putting jerseys on different guys, and you're either cheering for the laundry or you're not. Obviously, a lot of expectations for Russell Wilson, and all he has to do is come out and play the way Russell Wilson can. But to have a 14 of 31 day was not real good. And I also think a little bit has to do with the new coach in Nathaniel Hackett. Mm-hmm. There's been some questionable moves for a new head coach. I get that. But the fans, I think the same way, are look, we're all in. We've made these changes, but now we got to look better. And if not, we're going to let you know.
All right, before I let you go, if you were the coach of the Bengals, but if you knowing the game, should Bengal fans be in panic mode after you lose to Mitch Trubisky and Cooper Rush in the first 2 games of the year?
Well, I don't, it's too early to panic, but like I always say, you can kind of see it from here. It's something to consider. I mean, as we say, every week it just ebbs and flows. And now they go on and play a New York Jet team that feels energized and has had come off a big win. Then they got to play Miami, who looks to be the real deal. And then they got to play Baltimore. So yeah, it's not so much am I going to panic now, but this game against the Jets is huge. You got to stem the tide, because if you don't, and the Jets are certainly, and they're at New York, so it's on the road. If they don't, then they got a pretty stiff test the next 2, and all of a sudden, so it's easy to 0-2 and go, well, let's not panic, we're okay. But all of a sudden, you can see a path to 0-5, and that's not good.
No,
and then we'll start hearing, the statistics of what an 0-3 and 0-4 and 0-5 team, and what are the odds of the playoffs, and this, that, and the other, and which is, you can certainly be the exception, but that doesn't mean the talk isn't going to be centered around that. So it's a tough environment to work in. This is a huge game, as they all are, but this is a big game for the Bengals at MetLife Stadium against the Jets.
And by the way, I got to tell you, I mean, I wasn't ready to throw in the towel on the guy yet, because he hadn't gotten a ton of playing time. But Flacco looks like if you give him a chance to make some plays, he can still make some plays.
Flacco's a capable quarterback. He can make all the throws. He's a smart. He's a good, tough, physical. You're right. If you surround him with the right people, you can say that about anybody, really. But he has that. It's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. And he is capable with the right people around him. And you got to play good defense. It's got to be the total package.
Yeah.
But no, Joe Flacco is a capable quarterback. He's proven that, and he certainly showed it the other day.
And I tell you what, that Garrett Wilson kid, I said it when he was still at Ohio State, got his first 2 touchdowns in the NFL yesterday. That guy is going to be a great player if he stays healthy. I mean, what a talent. Yeah. Brian, all the best, my friend. Thank you so much for your time. It's great to see you, buddy. And by the way, I talked with Laura Oakman last night for the first time in forever, and the 3 of us were together for many, many years covering the NFL on Fox, and she told me to send you her very best and all of her love.
Absolutely. Love to she and her husband, Mike, great people, live in Nashville now, and I'll have to reach out to Laura. It's great to hear from her.
Yeah, she's getting ready to go to London for the next 2 weeks. They're sending that crew to London for 2 weeks. That's quite a trip. Yeah.
That's a pretty good.
It's not bad. All right, buddy. Be well. Have a great day.
We were always in Jacksonville and Detroit. We never got to London.
You got a good point. But then again, I mean, Jacksonville right now doesn't look all that bad.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Right. That's right. That's
all
right,
man.
All right, buddy. See you. Brian Billick, always great having it. The guy's the best, man. Guys is the best. I mean, not only his knowledge of football, but just as a guy, he's just the best.